Once upon a time, in a small, peaceful village called Ireti, life was simple. One bright morning, a loud sound of a motorcycle echoed in the village. A woman named Teni had arrived from the big city. She was young, beautiful, and full of confidence. But what caught everyone's attention was her dressing. She wore tight jeans and a short blouse that showed her belly. Her nails were painted red, her earrings dangled, and she wore a pair of high-heeled shoes that clacked loudly on the ground. The villagers had never seen anything like it. As Teni walked through the village, the men whispered, "Ah, see beauty," while the women frowned, shaking their heads. The village girls watched her with wide eyes, admiring her confidence. They had never seen someone so bold. Teni had come to visit her aunt, Mama Tolani. Mama Tolani was an elder in the village and lived in a small mud house with a thatched roof. When Teni entered, Mama Tolani dropped the broom she was holding and stared. "Teni," she cried, "what are you wearing? Eh? Are you not ashamed? This is a village, not your Lagos." Teni laughed, her voice like the tinkling of broken glass. "Auntie, don't worry. They will get used to it." Mama Tolani placed her hands on her waist and sighed deeply. This girl will not kill me. You will see. The elders will start to talk. Behave yourself here, Teni." Teni winked and twirled in her high-heeled shoes. "Auntie, I'm just here to enjoy myself. Let me breathe." Mama Tolani shook her head, muttering to herself as she went back to her sweeping. Outside, the villagers couldn't stop talking about Teni. The men whispered to each other, saying, "Ah, see the short dress. See how her waist swayed." "She did not even wear pants," another added, while the women hissed, saying, "This one has come to bring trouble." But the girls, they could not take their eyes off Teni. They whispered among themselves, "Who is she? Did you see her hair? Did you see her nails?" And so, from the moment Teni arrived, the once quiet village of Ireti began to buzz like a beehive disturbed by a stick. Soon, the village girls began to visit Mama Tolani's house to see Teni. They were curious about her city life. "Auntie Teni, is it true that in the city, girls don't need to pound yam or fetch water?" one girl asked. Teni smiled. "Of course, in the city, men take care of everything. You only need to look good and enjoy life." The girls gasped in amazement. Teni showed them her clothes, her makeup, and even her phone. She taught them how to walk with confidence and how to speak with charm. "Men love it when you look beautiful and act bold," she said. "That's how you get their attention and their money." At first, the girls hesitated. They had been raised to dress modestly and focus on helping their families, but they were mesmerized. When they left Mama Tolani's house, their minds buzzed with new ideas. They began to practice what Teni had taught them. They tied their wrappers higher, letting their legs peek out, and painted their lips red using the dye meant for ceremonies. They even practiced walking like Teni, their steps bold and confident, though some wobbled like baby goats learning to stand. At first, they were careful, only dressing up when their parents weren't watching. But as the days passed, their boldness grew. The once shy and modest girls of Ireti now carried themselves with an air of confidence that left the villagers whispering. What is happening to our daughters?" one woman asked, clutching her chest. "It's that city girl Teni," another replied. "She has bewitched them." But the girls didn't care. In their eyes, Teni was a queen, and they were her apprentices. The village of Ireti was beginning to change, one confident step at a time. One day, Teni called a few girls to her aunt's house. She said she had a plan to help them get rich. You see, men like to spoil beautiful girls with gifts. Teni explained. All you have to do is spend time with them. They will buy you clothes, shoes, and even give you money. Listen, Teni said, her tone serious now. Men are like goats. They follow wherever you lead them. All you have to do is look good, speak sweetly, and they will shower you with gifts. Clothes, shoes, money. You can have it all. But Aduke hesitated. What if our parents find out? Teni laughed, her voice low and smooth. That's where you must be smart. Tell them you're going to fetch water or help at the market. Be careful, and no one will know. The girls fidgeted, their doubts written on their faces. But we were taught not to do such things. Another girl whispered. Teni's smile faded and her eyes grew sharp. Do you want to live your whole life pounding yam and fetching water? Or do you want to live like queens, wearing the finest clothes and eating the best food? Her words sank into their hearts like stones dropped in a river. Slowly, they nodded. Teni's plan was daring, but the promise of a better life sparkled before them like the morning sun. The next day, the first brave girls followed Teni's advice. They tied their wrappers high, painted their lips red, and walked boldly toward the nearby towns. The men they met were captivated by their beauty and confidence. They returned to the village with shiny gifts, colorful wrappers, beads, and even money. The other girls watched in awe. Where did you get that? They asked, pointing to the new clothes. The girls giggled but didn't answer, their silence only fueling the curiosity. One by one, more girls visited Teni, eager to join her club. At night, when the village was asleep, they would sneak out in small groups, their laughter soft as the rustle of leaves in the wind. By morning, they returned, their hands full of treasures and their faces glowing with pride. But the changes didn't go unnoticed. Parents began whispering about their daughter's boldness. What is going on? They asked each other. Where are they getting these things? And yet, the girls were careful. They smiled sweetly, fetched water when asked, and hid their new possessions under their beds. They lived double lives, learning quickly how to keep secrets. The once simple and modest village of Ireti was beginning to shimmer with the allure of city life, all thanks to Teni and her secret club. As time passed, the village elders noticed changes in the girls. They no longer helped with chores or attended the evening gatherings. They wore makeup and walked around with an air of confidence that unsettled the villagers. Whispers began to spread. What is happening to our girls? An elder woman asked. It's that city girl, Teni. She has spoiled them, another replied. Mama Tolani tried to talk to Teni. Teni, the villagers are complaining. You need to stop influencing these girls. But Teni only smiled. Auntie, they are just jealous. I'm teaching the girls to enjoy life. What is wrong with that? Mama Tolani sighed, feeling helpless. One day, the secret life of one of the girls, Eniola, came to light. Eniola had started dressing boldly and meeting men, just like Teni had taught. But now, her belly had begun to swell. She was pregnant. Her mother noticed her sickness one morning and confronted her. What is this? Mama Eni asked sharply, her voice cutting through the quiet morning. Her eyes darted to Eniola's belly. Stand up! Eniola hesitated but obeyed, her hands trembling as she rose to her feet. Mama Eni stared at her, her heart pounding like the drum beats during festivals. She took a step closer, her voice now shaking. Eniola, tell me the truth. Are you pregnant? Eniola's lips quivered and tears began to stream down her face. Mama, Speak! Mama Eni shouted, her voice rising like thunder. Eniola fell to her knees, sobbing. I don't know who the father is, she whispered. Mama Ini gasped and staggered back, clutching her chest as if struck by lightning. For a moment there was silence, broken only by Iniola's soft cries. Then, like a dam breaking, Mama Ini wailed, a loud piercing sound that echoed through the village. Ah, my daughter has brought shame to my house, my ancestors. What have I done to deserve this? The neighbors, hearing the commotion, hurried over. What is happening? They asked, their faces curious. Mama Eni pointed a trembling finger at Eniola. She is pregnant, she cried, and she doesn't even know who the father is. The news spread through Ireti like wildfire. Soon, the entire village was buzzing with gossip. Women whispered behind their hands, shaking their heads. Men laughed, mocking Eniola's disgrace. This is what happens when girls abandon their values, an elder woman said, shaking her walking stick. She is a lesson for all. Shameless child, a man muttered. Her parents must be so proud. Eniola's shame became the talk of the village. Her friends avoided her. Their faces turned away whenever she walked by. Mothers used her as an example to warn their daughters. If you follow that city girl's ways, they said, you will end up like Eniola. But what the villagers didn't know was that their own daughters were quietly walking the same dangerous path. They hid their secrets well, sneaking out at night and returning with gifts. Eniola's story was a cautionary tale, but it didn't stop the whispers, the sneaking, or the lies. Eniola stayed in her family's compound, her head bowed in shame, while Mama Eni wept day and night. In the shadows, the village girls watched and whispered among themselves. They pitied Eniola, but fear didn't stop their desires. And so, the secrets of Ireti continued to grow, hidden beneath painted lips and bold steps. Then, one day, disaster struck the village. The skies over Ireti grew darker, as if the gods themselves had turned their faces away. The once lush farms, with their rows of yam and cassava, began to wither. Leaves turned yellow, stalks bent low, and the earth cracked under the weight of dryness. The goats that used to roam the village, bleating loudly, now stood still, their ribs poking through their skin. Worst of all, a strange sickness crept into the village, leaving many bedridden with fevers that no herbs could cure. Hey, what is happening to us? Mama Ebon cried as she stared at her barren farm. Yesterday, my yam leaves were green. Today, they are like ash. In another corner of the village, a man slapped his goat's side, hoping it would give milk, but the animal stood there, lifeless. Even the goats have betrayed us, he muttered, his voice heavy with despair. As the sickness spread, the people's fear grew. Children wailed, and the elderly whispered among themselves, "This is not ordinary. Something has angered the gods." The elders, their faces shadowed with worry, gathered under the big Iroko tree. They spoke in hushed tones, their staffs planted firmly in the ground, like old trees refusing to bow to the storm. Finally, the oldest elder, Patari, raised his hand. "This matter is beyond us," he said, his voice firm. "We must visit Baba Ade, the oracle." The villagers murmured in agreement. Baba Ade was known far and wide for his wisdom and connection to the gods. He lived on the edge of the forest, in a hut surrounded by charms and ancient carvings. The next morning, the elders and some villagers made their way to Baba Ade's shrine. The journey was silent, save for the occasional cough or whisper of prayer. When they arrived, Baba Ade sat cross-legged on a mat, his long white beard flowing like a river. His eyes, sharp as an eagle's, seemed to pierce through their very souls. "Speak," Baba Adi said, his voice deep and commanding. "Why have you come?" Patari stepped forward. Baba, our village is in trouble. The crops are dying, the goats give no milk, and a strange sickness has taken hold of us. We fear the gods are angry, but we do not know why. Baba Ade closed his eyes and began to chant. The villagers watched, their hearts pounding like festival drums. After what felt like an eternity, Baba Ade opened his eyes and spoke. The gods are indeed angry, he said. Your village has abandoned the ways of purity and tradition. The young maidens have turned away from their path. Their actions have polluted the land. The villagers gasped. Some looked down in shame, while others exchanged nervous glances. What must we do, Baba? Patari asked, his voice trembling. Baba Ade's eyes darkened as he spoke. To cleanse the village and lift the curse, the gods demand a sacrifice. 2 virgin maidens must carry an offering of white kola nuts, a ram, and a calabash of palm oil across the river Omi. Only then will the gods forgive your people. Akchos Akcho Chuhoim. A heavy silence fell over the group. The river Omi was wide and deep, its current strong enough to drag a man under. And now, 2 virgins had to face it to save the village. The maidens must be pure, Baba Ade added. If they are not, they will not survive the crossing. The villagers nodded solemnly, their hearts heavy. They returned to Ireti with Baba Ade's message, ready to announce the test. But deep down, many wondered if any of their daughters would pass. The once proud parents, who had boasted of their daughters' purity, now felt the weight of shame creeping into their hearts. As the news spread, the village braced for the ultimate test of truth and the reckoning that would follow. The following day, the girls, dressed in white wrappers, walked nervously to the edge of the river. Their bare feet touched the cool, damp sand, and they shivered, not from the cold, but from fear. Each knew the truth that lay hidden in their hearts. The first girl, Aduke, stepped forward. Her father, standing proudly in the crowd, shouted, "That's my daughter. She is as pure as fresh palm wine." Aduke hesitated, her hands trembling before wading into the river. At first, the water was calm, lapping gently against her ankles. But as she moved deeper, the current grew stronger. She struggled, her legs kicking wildly, until suddenly she disappeared beneath the surface. The crowd gasped as the river swallowed her whole. 2 men rushed in and pulled her out, coughing and sputtering but alive. The villagers murmured, their confidence beginning to crack. The second girl, Ebun, stepped forward, her face pale as the full moon. Her mother clasped her hands together, whispering, "The gods will protect her." Ebun entered the river, her steps unsteady. She swam for a while, her arms slicing through the water, but just as she neared the middle, the current pulled her under. She too was dragged out, gasping for air. One by one, the girls tried, and one by one, they failed. Each time a girl disappeared beneath the water, the murmurs in the crowd grew louder. "What is happening?" one man cried. "Are none of them pure?" The parents, who had once stood tall, now hung their heads in shame. Whispers turned to accusations. "Our daughters have brought disgrace to this village," one elder shouted. "They have turned away from the ways of our ancestors." The elders turned to Teni, who stood apart from the crowd watching silently. Patari pointed his staff at her, his voice thunderous. "This is your doing. You came to this village and filled our daughters' heads with your city ways." The crowd erupted. "Yes, she is to blame," they shouted. "She has poisoned our girls." Teni stepped forward, her face calm despite the storm of anger around her. "I did not force anyone," she said, her voice steady. "They came to me because they wanted to learn. If they chose to abandon your ways, Perhaps it is because they wanted more than this village could offer. They wanted a taste of freedom. Freedom, Patari bellowed, his staff striking the ground. You call this freedom, disgrace and impurity. The gods are angry, and it is your doing. Teni stepped forward, her voice rising above the crowd's noise. Your daughters are not children. They made their own choices. If you think they were pure before, maybe you didn't know them as well as you thought. The crowd gasped and a murmur of shock rippled through the air. Teni's words struck like the crack of a whip. But her boldness only fueled the villagers' anger. How dare you insult us? One man roared. You have destroyed our pride and you stand here unrepentant. Teni must leave, another shouted, and the crowd roared in agreement. Mama Tolani pushed her way to the front, her face etched with sorrow. Teni, please, she said softly, tears pooling in her eyes. You've done enough harm. It is better if you go. Teni turned to her aunt, her defiance faltering for the first time. Auntie, I didn't mean for things to get this bad. I just wanted to show them a different way. Mama Tolani shook her head, her tears spilling over. You came with good intentions, but look around. The village is in ruins. The elders blame you. The parents blame you. Staying here will only bring more trouble. The words pierced Teni's heart like a knife. She looked around at the faces she once saw as curious and admiring. Now, they were twisted with hatred and disappointment. She took a deep breath and nodded. Fine, she said quietly. I will leave. Mama Tolani helped her pack her few belongings, her hands trembling with sadness. The small mud house once filled with laughter was now heavy with silence. When it was time to go, Teni hugged her aunt tightly. I'm sorry, Auntie, she whispered, her voice breaking. Mama Tolani wiped her tears and nodded. Go, my child. I pray you find peace. With her bag slung over her shoulder, Teni stepped out into the square. The villagers watched as she walked away, their angry murmurs fading into the distance. Her steps were steady, but her heart was a storm of emotions, anger at their blindness, regret for the chaos she had caused, and sadness for the life she was leaving behind. As she reached the edge of the village, Teni paused and looked back one last time. The once familiar paths and faces now felt like strangers. With a heavy sigh, she turned and walked on, disappearing into the horizon as the villagers stood in silence, their hearts torn between relief and sorrow. The village of Ireti, still burdened by the shame and wrath of the gods, fell silent after Teni's departure. The elders, their faces lined with worry, gathered under the ancient Iroko tree to plan the purification. Patari, with his staff firmly in hand, spoke first. We must cleanse this village, he declared, his voice firm. The gods must see our remorse. The other elders nodded. Plans were made to restore harmony with the gods and the ancestors. Early the next morning, the villagers assembled at the shrine of Baba Ade. Offerings of white kola nuts, palm oil, and a spotless ram were laid at the feet of the sacred statue. Baba Ade led the prayers, chanting in a deep rhythmic voice that echoed across the silent crowd. The ghosts, dressed in plain white wrappers, stood apart from the villagers. Their heads were bowed, their faces pale with shame. As the elders prayed, the ghosts felt the weight of their actions pressing on their hearts like heavy stones. We are sorry, Aduke whispered to herself, tears streaming down her cheeks. The ceremonies lasted 3 days. On the first day, Baba Ade and the elders poured libations at the river bank, calling on the gods to forgive the village. On the second day, a procession carried the offerings through the village, with the girls following behind in silence. On the final day, the villagers gathered to witness the sacrifices, a ram, a calabash of oil, and a bundle of white kola nuts, offered to the gods at the sacred grove. The elders spoke words of repentance. "We have strayed from the ways of our ancestors," Patari said, his voice trembling. "Forgive us and cleanse our land." The girls, standing before the elders, took turns apologizing to their parents. "Mama, Baba, I have brought shame to you," Aduke said, falling to her knees. "I promise never to stray again." One by one, the girls vowed to abandon the ways Teni had taught them. The villagers, though hurt, forgave them. Slowly, the weight of anger and shame began to lift. As the final prayer was spoken, the air in Ireti felt lighter, as if the gods had accepted their plea. In the days and weeks that followed, life in Ireti began to return to its old rhythm. The crops grew green again, the goats gave milk, and the strange sickness vanished like a morning mist under the sun. The villagers worked together, rebuilding trust and unity among themselves. The girls, now humbled, returned to their chores with renewed dedication. They fetched water, pounded yam, and joined their mothers at the market. Their laughter, once bold and careless, became soft and joyful, rooted in the peace of living right. The elders, having seen the near destruction of their village, took it upon themselves to guide the youth more carefully. "We must never let our children forget this lesson," Patari said during an evening gathering. "Freedom without values leads to ruin." The parents, too, became more attentive. Mothers told their daughters the story of Teni, warning them of the dangers of chasing fleeting pleasures. Fathers reminded their sons to respect tradition and the ways of the ancestors. "No pants, no problem," the villagers began to say, "but lose your values and you lose yourself." As the years passed, Teni's story became a cautionary tale, told by firesides and under the shade of the Iroko tree. The name Teni was spoken with a mixture of regret and reverence, a reminder of how easily one person's influence could shake the foundation of an entire village. And so, Ireti thrived again, holding tightly to the values that had kept it strong for generations. The lesson of Teni was not forgotten, and the village stood as a testament to the power of unity, tradition, and the wisdom of learning from past mistakes. I hope you enjoyed the tale. If so, please like the video, share it with your family and friends, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell for more enchanting tales like this one. Goodbye.